Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Yeah, good morning. This is Stan coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. And today we discuss the death of additive mixing, cable storage, design assignments, and Power Distro racks, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. That's right. Steve, Stan,
was it called
and David.
Something before it was called Long Beach?
Long Beach.
I mean, that's clearly not a Spanish name.
It's Long Beach. No, it's not Pomona or Corona or the other, Los Angeles, right? It's not a Spanish name. No.
It's not San something or
And the
Los
reason why
something.
it's called Long Beach is because it is a long beach.
It is. I've walked it.
It's a very long beach. It's very wide and very long.
With lots of long ships
The
on
long
the
ships
horizon.
that are still parked out there, the docked up.
Wooden ships on the water.
Right, there you go.
Remember that song?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's an old Crosby, Stills, Nash song. Welcome, everyone, to episode 262, our second episode of season 6.
Season 6, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Season 6, it's a happening thing. 262.
How many seasons did Steinfeld go?
Seinfeld.
That's a good question. Look
Yeah,
that up,
yeah.
somebody.
Did they go? They go more than 6 seasons?
I think we should follow the wisdom of Seinfeld.
Well, Seinfeld, I think, went 12 seasons.
Oh,
No.
we got some time there to go.
Just
Look
kidding.
it up.
Someone look it up.
Coming to you from the Shady Rest Nursing Home.
Yes, that's our oxygen tanks in the background wheezing. Let's start off the day with some news, and there's lots of news today. First of all, boy, the Grammys were last Sunday night, and what a change from the week before. Nobody was assaulted on stage at the Grammys.
Maybe they should keep doing them in Las Vegas. I mean, maybe that's where the Grammys really belong. That was just, I had a great time watching that. It was a good show.
A lot of shots from Vegas. They had that really cool roof stage, which there was that bluegrass band that was lit in yellow, which was really odd, but it was really cool lighting out there. And cool lighting in there, too, from our friend Noah Mintz. The production design was Julio Himedi, and I'm probably mispronouncing that. I apologize, Julio. Costume designs by Ann Ronda. And as I said, the lighting designer was Noah Mintz. And boy, there were some incredible visuals, lighting, video, all superb, all superb. And I think they did a really good job following up that terrific show they did last year.
Which was also in Vegas, I believe.
Was that in Vegas as well?
I think they've done the last 2 in Vegas.
Yeah, it's sort of like LDI. We should always be in Vegas now. There was a time when LDI went back and forth from like Orlando to Vegas and back and forth. And I'd just stay in Vegas. It's a lot more convenient for me, too. And you get some pretty good prices on hotels. But that being said, it was a great show. From the very beginning, I loved Silk Sonic. There's some really cool visuals, really bold lighting, and some fun Las Vegas-themed casino shots and things like that. And then they had I'm just going to pick out moments that I thought were really cool. Olivia Rodrigo, when she was in that old Mercedes. And, This shows you how young she is, because there was this old, vintage 1960s radio in this Mercedes, and she was tuning it. She was changing the channels with the wrong dial. She was using the left dial, which everyone knows was always the volume. The tuning dial was on the right. Am I right, Steve?
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, there you go. The whippersnapper didn't know what she was doing.
It took me right out of the moment.
I'm looking at a picture of her right now.
She's about, 25 or something like that. She didn't know. But you would think that someone would have told her, now when you do this, it's the other knob. But probably they're too young, too, to remember. But boy, that was some beautiful projection work, I must tell you. I don't know if you remember that, but that had all that background that was changing from that street, and it changed colors, and it was beautiful lighting throughout that piece. And then they had that really interesting duet with Maria Becerra and Jay Belvin, where they were right next to the LED screen, and they had these bold red colors with blue lights swiping across behind them. But I'm just going to tell you my 2 favorite moments, okay? One was John Legend with the Ukrainian musicians and artists performing free. And of course, Zelensky had a tape message, which was really powerful, about the power of making music. But my all-time favorite moment in that show was that amazing Sondheim in memoriam arrangement, where you had like 6 singers just singing this incredible, I want to say arrangement, but it was sort of overlapped Sondheim songs. And they were so beautiful as they showed images of people who had passed away over the past year, and Stephen Sondheim being one of them. That was beautiful. How about you, Steve? What stood out for you?
Well, clearly you have no idea what you're talking about because it was Ladisi. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. The young lady from New Orleans who sang Neme Keat. That was just
That
great.
was awesome. The New Orleans, yeah.
And also John Baptiste.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, man, he rocked the house. I mean, both of those. I mean, beautiful lighting behind both of them also. It was just everything the Academy Awards were not. and maybe it's just because I'm more interested in the music industry than I am the film industry. But it was good. I think, the Grammys had some rocky roads in the past, but boy, I mean, last night was just solid and tasteful and everything just as smooth as could be.
I just think the Grammys have their act together. Trevor Noah, he came out and he said, tonight is a bunch of concerts. It's like tied together by some awards, but it's really a night of music. And it is.
Well, maybe that's it. I don't want to look at film clips. I want to look at these artists on stage and the moment they're up there.
There's so much happening in the world, and musicians really capture that. And maybe because you can write music fast, and you can't create a film fast.
Okay, so what about the wild card? And that was Curtis Stewart, the violinist.
Oh, yeah.
That was just, I'd never seen anything quite like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, kudos to Noah. What a beautiful design. The entire team, amazing design. And I just love it because they could be so bold in this type of environment. And they were. Moving on from the Grammys, a couple of things. IRTA is having a showcase, and the application is on IRTA.com. Finally, Stan's favorite company, Vectorworks, is sponsoring some design scholarships. Vectorworks design scholarships are now accepting submissions through July 31st. And your students can win up to $10,000. And there are several awards available. And I know that students have to apply. So you need to submit your best work, whether it's new design for the competition or past projects from any of their classes. You can find the application on the Nemenchik website or just do a search for Vectorworks Design Scholarships. And that's the news. That's a lot went on this week. But let's get started with the show. Steve has our first question.
Sure. It's Deb in Florida. And she asks, we're building a PD, power distribution, 200 amps. Should I reverse the gender of my ground and neutral at the distro? We are a roadhouse. Any other recommendations about power? Well, I think you're on the right track there. A lot of people reverse the ground and the neutral socket on a power distribution. And the idea behind that is that it's going to prevent accidentally tying in a hot phase line into those. But I would also say if you're going to do that, you might as well go ahead and buy yourself a set of turnarounds to have on hand just in case. I mean, when I see a 200 amp power distribution, I'm kind of thinking sound systems. So you may, 200 amps, maybe you'll max it out. But a lot of sound companies run about 60 to 100 amps. So that means that they're probably going to bring number 2 wire. And they may have that bundled up. And so they won't take it kindly if they have to, tear their bundle apart to reverse 2 50-foot cables. So, keep that in mind. Also, if you're wanting to buy some cable to alleviate that problem, you're probably going to look at 2-watt, and that's going to handle about 190 to 200 amps. So that'll max out your power distribution. So yes, reverse the gender of your ground and neutral. Do you guys have anything?
That's exactly what we did at Production Arts. There we did exactly what Steve said. That I think it might have even been Steve Terry who started doing that in the early days. I don't know what the history is, but yes, that was a safety built-in safety mechanism, and yes, the turnarounds.
When are the geniuses at MIT going to come up with wireless power?
Now wait. I have a story. So it's only partially connected to the feeder cable. So at Production Arts, because I've worked from the ground up, right, on all this stuff, when you were sending out new tie-ins, so you'd have the feeder cable, you'd have the turnarounds that Steve mentioned, and then you'd also have what we'd call tie-ins. It'd be a 3-wire set or a 5-wire set of 2-aught or 4-aught. But before we put it out on a rental, to make it easier for the electricians doing the tie-in, we would cut the end of the tie-in because it was all kind of messed up from the road, right, when they'd come back. So and then we would wrap it in tape so it was nice and clean. So when they unwrapped it, it was a beautiful set of stranded, wire, because it was stranded wire to go into the lug in the disconnects. Well, but here's the fun part. See, Terry, if you're listening, you will remember. So we would cut the copper into a bin, and about every month or two, there'd be a whole lot of copper from trimming the tie-ins on the Power Distro. And then we would take the copper, because we had a company that would take the spent copper and give us money. They would because copper has a value. And then we'd take that money and we'd buy beer. So on Fridays, we'd have Beer 30, as it was called at Production Arts, which was funded by the little snipping of the copper on all the tie-ins. So when a lot of stuff came back, there was a lot of copper snipping, and then that's how we sort of financed, some of our jollies. So not necessarily technical information, but just a story.
Actually, it is technical information.
It is.
And it's an important bit, because I left that out. I just assumed the whole world understands that your cable and your tie-in should be copper. So when I tell you that 2-aught runs about 190 amps, that's copper, not aluminum. So, Deb, do not buy aluminum.
No.
That's just a waste of your time.
I was just going to repeat my question from earlier. So when are the geniuses from MIT going to come up with wireless power?
When they resurrect Tesla.
You mean like a...
Resurrect? Are you kidding me?
Well, they get Tesla's DNA and then sort of clone him and then ask him how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So you mean like a battery powered?
You know about that stuff he did in Colorado, right? He had that whole place out there that burned up. You know that story?
No.
That's right. Electricity's dangerous.
No, there's a whole story about him creating this wireless electricity experiment in the mountains. I think it's Colorado or New Mexico.
New Jersey.
No. It was out west. No, this is a true story. I'll look it up and send it to you guys.
About Elon,
about a year from now.
Blowing
no, it's
up
true.
Mountains, burning down this.
No, he set up these two nodes, and waiting for the lightning storm, and he was working on That's not a joke. I'm not making that up.
Waiting for the lightning storm. That's
yes.
It's pretty funny.
Hang on.
I mean, it's not
Clearly, he was celebrating Beer 30.
That's right. Damn it, Beer 30.
But Stan does have a point. Tesla was doing this when everyone scoffed at him. And what was it? The big was it Westinghouse that did him in? Are they the ones who cut his funding?
Well, no. The Westinghouse story is different. The Westinghouse story is his competition. First of all, you have to remember. I don't want to go off on a Tesla tangent, but remember that Tesla worked for Edison. Okay, and Edison was committed to
Oh, you're not talking about Elon Musk.
Oh.
I thought you were talking about Elon.
No, he's talking about his good friend, Nick.
I'm talking about Nikolai.
I know, I get it. Okay, you're talking about the actual Tesla. Okay, got it. Okay, go on.
Okay, I'm just going to send you this link to Tesla's wireless power experiment.
Well, it doesn't help
send
our
it to
listeners.
Deb in Florida.
So,
no, this is important stuff.
well, why don't you tell our listeners what it's about?
Well, you said when are the guys at MIT
going to come up
and
with
I'm
this?
telling you that they have to resurrect. They have to take the DNA from Tesla if they can find his body, clone him up, and ask him how to do it because he was so close.
Okay.
And then he died.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, his laboratory at Wardenclyffe. Okay, that's where it was, featuring 185-foot tower metal bars extending below. He really
That's New Jersey. Wardenclyffe is New Jersey.
Is it
Isn't
really?
It
No, I don't.
I think so.
No, I don't think so.
Wardenclyffe Tower, 1901 to 1917, right? Also known as Tesla Tower, was an early experimental wireless transmission station built by Nikola Tesla in Long Island, not even New Jersey.
Oh, it was Long Island.
That's where I was born.
You're a little bit too far west, Steve.
Well, he wanted to stay
Still
there
New
where there
York.
was pizza.
But there you go. That's interesting. I will.
No, read
keep
about
this-
it. There's a document.
I see the
I like
tower.
to
That's
watch Tesla
awesome.
documentaries.
Oh my God, this thing is huge.
No, I'm telling you, he was on the road to figuring it out.
Man. And no one could figure it out after him. Okay, well that's
Well,
interesting.
he was a genius
Yeah.
because if you think, I mean, he really was a certified genius, and he died penniless. He's an interesting story.
Well, who's going to give him money to develop free energy?
Well, okay.
None of the
Well,
robber barons are going to do that.
So I'll give you the encapsulating story, the Edison-Tesla rivalry. Tesla's working for Edison. Edison is totally locked into DC power. It's got to be DC. It's got to be DC because of that. And he was right. But Tesla saying, I think there's another way. He develops an AC motor, an AC system. And Edison's like, no way. That takes so much voltage. It's never going to be safe for people in their homes. Well, so what happens is George Westinghouse, right, as Tesla quits Edison's labs, goes to work for Westinghouse to compete with Edison. And there's a rivalry. If you read the history, it's phenomenal. Edison is demonstrating how to use his DC power because he invents the electric chair for execution.
Oh my God.
Okay, this is all true.
Well, that's why you need that high voltage.
Okay, and he does these public demonstrations, and people see the electricity and how it killed inmates. I mean, it was gruesome. And then, so the idea of electricity scared the shit out of people. So what Tesla comes up with is what we have today. He says, look, you don't want to have electricity in your house. You want to have professionals creating electricity in power plants and distributing it to you safely. In other words, Edison's idea was you have a DC generator in your basement, and many homes did, right? And you put oil or whatever fuel to run the generator, and you have DC power direct out of the outlets. And early homes had that. And Tesla said, no, we're going to do high voltage power. We're going to have plants around the country, and we're going to distribute it. And that's why you have all these wires scarring the landscape, is because of Nikola Tesla. There's more to say about that, but Tesla won, and the way he won was the bidding for Niagara Falls. That was Edison and Westinghouse, okay? And Tesla and Westinghouse wins with their generator that Tesla designed. It's a fabulous story.
Wow. I was just scanning over this article in Wikipedia about it. There did have something in Colorado Springs.
That's the one I'm
There's
thinking.
a photograph of it. It's wild. It's called a Magnifying Transmitter, Colorado Springs,
That's right.
in 1899. Photo is a double exposure. It's wild. Just look at it on Wikipedia. It's crazy.
I know. I've watched a whole documentary on it. That's some kind of power distribution right there, baby.
Yeah. We need that for the theater. And I needed it the other night when I was setting up my equipment, and I realized that I was setting up like 30 cables to my keyboards and saying, there's something wrong here. There's got to be an easier way.
And did you feast on pork after the show?
We played for pork. We actually played for pork. It was awesome, man.
Kosher pork, I bet.
No, it wasn't kosher. This is not kosher. This is out in the middle of nowhere in Southern
There's
California.
no such thing as kosher pork.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it was a happening thing, let me tell you. But okay, so Carl in Germany writes, is additive mixing a thing of the past now that we have LEDs? Well, Carl, no. Next question. No, seriously. First when I read this question, I was like saying, well, Carl really actually means subtractive mixing, because subtractive means gels and, and all that. And actually, additive mixing happens when you have two lights that have different colors and they mix in the air.
And you get a third, and you get a third color.
That's additive mixing as well, right?
So Carl could mean a lot of things.
Yeah, but even with an LED, you
LEDs
turn up different colored
mixing.
LEDs, and
Yes.
you're adding them together to make a third color.
Unless you're using moving light with a one-color LED engine and you're using subtractive mixing,
right?
Like the old school
or
does,
refractive
CMY.
mix.
Right, or
refractive
refractive mixing. So anyway, the answer is no, additive mixing is not a thing of the past, because we're dealing with additive mixing when we decide what color we want a multicolored LED fixture. And also, even with LED lights, if two lights are pointed in the same general area, they're going to mix additively.
Additively, sure.
Actively, that's good. I like that. Actively. They're going to actively mix.
Or additively, yeah.
Right. And subtractive mixing is not a thing of the past, because we still have fixtures out there that
We use filters.
Yes, we use filters. We have a LED engine, that's a one-color LED engine, and then there's a CMY filters in front of it. So no, you still need to know both. And I think that in schools, this is the challenge, that we need to be teaching both of these things. And students have a hard time wrapping their heads around it because they're trying to learn something new, and they may not know about either, I mean, I didn't know about color
I think
mixing.
I told you guys, I had one student, my first student, who never used the gel.
Yeah.
A graduate student.
Yeah. But
Only
they need
used
to know
LEDs.
about both. They need to know about subtractive mixing. So am I missing something here, or is it really that simple?
I think it's that simple.
Okay.
All right. I've got a question from Andrew in St. Paul.
Is that two
And
words,
he
Anne and Drew, or two?
I'm just
a
trying to
woman
be
and a guy?
enthusiastic. I'm not on this show all the time, so I'm trying to bring my enthusiasm to the table.
Okay, so it's
If you want
Andrew.
if you want me to curb my enthusiasm, I could do that too.
Enthusiasm. Okay, Larry.
So Andrew in St. Paul writes, how do you make design assignments for your students? You mean, what's the recipe? No, he says, that is to say, how do you pick which shows for which students? So I'm going to surprise Steve and tell him I took notes.
Highest
before.
bidder. Whoever
No,
pays you the most.
I have my notes on this, my answers for this question,
All right.
and I have 5 points. And I'm going to read the 5 points, and then I'll elaborate a little bit on each one. 1, the larger matrix. 2, weaknesses and strengths. 3, the correct dose. 4, product versus process. And 5, ready for the hot seat. So let's talk about the larger matrix. Simple. It's complicated. Okay, it's an alchemy of things, and so many. It's like a constellation of stars that one considers about not just the title of the show, the teams, the chemistry, the who, the experience, the level of. There's just a lot of factors that are in the bucket. Let's just say. Okay. Then I say weaknesses and strengths. So I have this philosophy for a student. There's a value in a student doing something that you think they are strong at because they use that muscle and it gets stronger, right? And there's a certain confidence building aspect when a student is doing something that they feel confident in. On the other hand, this is like the Tevye answer. Okay, so on the other hand, school is a place to build strength. So you might look at a student's weaknesses and say, boy, this title would be really good for this student because they could really grow from it. And in that case, you go back to 1 and go, well, given the complicated matrix, is this the right scenario and the right schedule, the right amount of pressure where the student can build that muscle without it affecting their level of confidence? Okay, the correct dose. So all of those things, there's going to be stress, there's going to be success, there's going to be time constraints, there's going to be, how is the title something they're familiar with, not familiar. So I think of that, giving them the assignment is a dosage, right? And is this the right dose for this student at that time for their benefit, for their growth and development? Product versus process. Let's say the student has a really good design process and you've seen it, and that really works well for this title in this situation. So that might be a plus. On the other hand, if the student has sort of a weak process, or it's sort of maybe more haphazard, but they have a really good eye and they end up getting a really good product, well, what do they need? Again, it's back to the weaknesses and strengths. Where will they benefit the most in that scenario or from that piece? And lastly, and then I'll probably have a little et cetera there, ready for the hot seat, because it is stressful. So I never want to put a student too deep in the end of the pool where they're going to drown, right, in terms of complexity, or I don't want to put them in a seat where, they're sort of like they're doing it, they're phoning it in. So there's sort of a spectrum there. And then lastly, I didn't have on my list, because the question talks about which shows I pick for them. I am open-minded. When the season comes out, a student will somehow indicate to me, I'll ask them, hey, I would really like to do this play. Or they may have actually proposed that play and it got selected for the season. Who knows? So I do want them to connect to the piece or the title emotionally, intellectually, philosophically. But like the Tevye, On the other hand, sometimes it's good to give a student something they don't want to do. So they have to stretch. They have to be a professional. So they have to learn how to do something that maybe they're not motivated for. And with that, I will relinquish the floor.
Beautiful, Stan. I used to go through all that stuff. And then finally I decided,
You throw the dice. You throw the dice
no,
now.
I wouldn't throw the dice. I would tell them, this is the season. You contact me. You tell me what show you want to do. And they work it out amongst themselves.
Maybe that's a good idea.
Something, I must tell you, they've always had, it seems to me, in my experience of doing this for about, about 15 years, my last 15 years of my teaching career, that's what I did. They always seemed to enjoy themselves. There was never friction amongst the production team because they all liked each other. They all figured out who they wanted to work with, and that's how we did it. And it saved me days, weeks of stressing over, well, but would this be a better experience? We don't know. We have no idea, right? Who knows what's going to happen? The director may go crazy, for God knows. So that's just the way it worked for me. So does
the rest of your school know that's how you do it now? Did the directors know?
Oh, yeah. And the directors are fine with it. The directors are all fine with it. And they take anyone because, we would hire directors. We didn't have acting teachers directing our shows. God forbid. That's the worst thing a school can do. Most schools do that.
Don't ask me about my place.
I'm not going to ask you, but I'm just saying most schools do that, and I think that's a huge error for the actors as well as the designers.
Sure, I agree.
Acting teachers can come in and mentor their students during the process, absolutely, but they shouldn't be directing.
I agree.
There are exceptions. I will say that there are exceptions.
But for the most part, but yeah, I may try your throw them in the pool and see how they do it on their own.
Just say, here's the season. You tell me what you want to do. It usually works out that they all get what they want. Usually,
interesting.
I have a feeling they talk amongst each other. Say, I want to do a musical.
Yeah, well, I would think that they would. That's a very interesting idea. I may just roll with that next year.
Saves time.
Because you know what? If next year, if I'm walking out the door and it goes bad, don't blame it on me.
They won't go bad. It won't go bad. I guarantee that at least your students will be happy because they get to work with who they wanted to work with. They get to work with the director they wanted to work with. They get to work with their colleagues. And, that's the way it happens. I don't know.
What does Steve think?
Same thing as David. What we do is we take the design students and we give them the entire season. In January, early February, we ask that they read all the plays that are being presented. And then, so we're doing a 6-play season. Each student comes back and ranks each play 1 through 6 on what they want to do. So same thing. I don't let the students decide who they're working with, but we do want the students involved and we want to see what they're doing. Now, if I have someone who only wants to do sofa dramas, then there's a problem there. But we haven't had that. Yeah. They like to work in different theaters. They like to work with different directors. But it's interesting. They come back and they have a real passion about the show they're doing. They've read it and they've connected to it in some way.
Yeah, that's the key.
So
that's the key because at least the way I used to do it, they would have to say why they wanted to do the play.
Exactly.
And I know you work the same way, Steve. And they have a passion for the play, and it's not like you just assigned them because they need to do a musical, but they may hate the musical. And that's happened, in the old days when I used to do what Stan does. I would assign a musical to somebody. I thought they would love it. They said, "No, I really don't want to do that. It's a horrible music. I don't feel connected to that piece. I wish you would have given me Uncle Vanya or something." The last thing I would have thought of, And
well, let me just say, I'm not so hard nosed. I mean, I do really hear what they want to do, and I'm influenced by that. So I'm not authoritative about it. But we don't go as far as what Steve is saying, where they read all the plays. But I would like to.
Why not?
Yeah, but
I think it's a good. I like it. I think it's a good idea.
And in fact, at the first read through of play number 1 in the fall with the cast, all 12 design students have to be there, whether they're doing it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah,
they're there for the read through of every show and hear the director and the design team talk about how they're finding their way into the play.
No, I like it. I like the idea. I could see how we, I don't know if everybody would agree at my institution, but I think it's an interesting idea. Who's got the next question?
Oh, it's not a next question. We're going to our sponsor.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today we are sponsored by
Production Table Strategic Security System. The world has changed. The recent Grammy brouhaha over Will Smith whacking the crap out of Chris Rock is just one sign that it's now socially acceptable for audience members to attack the talent on stage. And if it's okay to slap the comedian in front of millions of viewers, it's only a matter of time for the audience to turn on you and your colleagues at the production table. Be prepared to defend the sanctity of the production table with Wilmette Corporation's PTSS system. That's right, the Production Table Strategic Security System. Why would such a tactical defense system be necessary in the theater? Well, our founders have witnessed countless incidents of angry patrons approaching the production table during invited dress rehearsals, demanding to speak to the director, asking for the sound to be turned down, or just to verbally abuse the poor lighting designer. And conflict at the production table is not limited to audience members. Your costume design colleagues can also pose a huge threat to you when you accidentally gray out the color of their costumes with that ugly amber light you like so much. When you hear the clacking of their heels running down the aisle to confront you with dangerous, sharp implements of destruction, just press the panic button on your PTSS system and it immediately creates an invisible wall of impenetrable stink, protecting you and your colleagues. How does it work? The PTSS system uses a ring of air jets that encircle the production table. Upon activation, a military-grade electric air pump jettisons 1,000 psi of the funkiest mist you have ever experienced into the air surrounding the table. Wilmette Corporation scientists have come up with several choices of odors. For a mild warning repellent, try our BO breakfast. Like the pungent smell of an assistant who has not slept or bathed in days, the BO breakfast gently discourages anyone who wants to offer stupid suggestions about how to make the show look better. For more serious dangers, our Skunkworks whammy will not only repel the invaders, it will stick to their clothes, forcing them to immediately leave the theater, run to the bathroom, strip off their clothes, and bathe in the toilet. And for situations that pose a grave physical threat to you and your colleagues, the red AZ5 button launches our nuclear-powered bovine flatulence spray. This will not only create a glowing radioactive mist curtain around the table, it will immediately set off the theater's smoke detectors. Only a trained hazmat team will be able to restore the theater to a habitable environment. But what about you and your friends at the table? Well, the PTSS system comes with a half-dozen detachable gas masks that instantly deploy whenever the system is activated. Options include an LED lighting package that can light the mist in any color you want. It can also project text onto the mist warning that any further incursion could result in an escalation to more objectionable aromas. So why risk your physical well-being during this time of endless pandemic madness? Protect yourself from crazy theater insurrectionists with Wilmette Corporation's new Production Table Strategic Security System. Don't leave home without it.
I like that. I like the text being projected while you're in the midst of cue writing.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm telling you, man. This has a place in the rock and roll industry.
Oh yes.
You know,
definitely.
I'm not the only person that has someone walk up to them and go, "It's a little loud. Could you turn it down?" Do I look like a sound person? Do I look like a sound guy? No.
Yeah.
He's standing right over there.
I always felt bad about the guys and gals who are mixing sound and lights in the rock and roll arena, and you have all those stoners around you, you know? It's like, oh, God. Just let me concentrate.
Sometimes when you gotta go, you gotta go.
They're throwing up on your DMX run.
Oh, tell me about
back to the dimmers. You know, that's always unpleasant.
Yeah, that's unpleasant. Who cleans up that mess? Yes.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those rabid ducks means that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about one question. Should there be any alternatives to Vectorworks?
Do you believe in monopolies?
Well, they are all around us. We have monopolies everywhere.
I don't care about the monopoly. What I care about is I'm trying to use Vectorworks. Are you listening, guys? I'm trying to use your damn product, and something goes wrong. And now, because I've been a paper and pencil guy my entire life, I'm now trying to figure out am I just too stupid to run the program? Did I do something wrong? It seems like yesterday when I punched this combination of buttons, it worked all right. Oh, was there an update? So I just, oh man, it's hell. Is it me or is it the bugs? Paper and pencil or cave drawings?
Considering the amount of complaints we see on the Vectorworks Facebook side.
I want you to know I resigned from the
Facebook group
this week. I'm going to be honest.
The Academy? You and Will Smith?
Well, that's coming too, but I did. Someone made a comment. So I'm on multiple Facebook groups that deal with drafting, and I'm on that one because everybody uses it, and the students need to know it, and so on and so forth. So this person makes this post. I'm going to tell you this. I'll be specific. I'm trying to rotate my set 90 degrees. And I selected everything, and I rotated, and I had to wait 45 minutes. Now,
so if you're using a drafting table, all you have to do is get up, walk around the table, and it's there. It is.
No, just peel up the drafting tape and rotate the right. Okay.
Rotate it.
In Steve's world. So now, of course, the right thing to do is you would group that stuff, and you wouldn't be moving 60,000 pixels. Okay, so you would.
No, the right way to do it is you cuss for 15 minutes while you're waiting for it to rotate.
15 minutes.
So anyway, but clearly the person using it is not the most experienced computer draft person. But okay, I just couldn't resist, and I made a comment, and it was a little snarky, I will admit. And I said something like, maybe you should use a better CAD program. And
on the Facebook
and then somebody said, Vectorworks is a BIM program, and so you have to learn how to use it. Now, that's true. So Vectorworks is no longer a 2D CAD program. It is a BIM program. For those who don't know, BIM stands for Building Information Management. It's more than a drawing program. It's a database program. Some of them are 3D. There are models. They're
trying
much more
to be
sophisticated.
Revit, right? They're trying to.
Yeah. That's exactly. Well, Revit is a BIM,
Right.
and actually, that was my next comment. So my next comment was, well, if you want to use BIM, you might want to take a look at Revit, which is
much better
program. Okay. Well, then Mark Doubleday, I'm going to say, Mark is the moderator of the group. Well, I know Mark and we've had private conversation. We agree on a lot of things, and he said, "Oh, there goes Stan K again." Nothing constructive to say because I didn't. Right.
Did you walk up and slap him and challenge him to a duel?
He slapped me down, and rightly so. Because I really wasn't offering a solution, which is what the site is really for.
Yes, you were. The solution was the use Revit.
No, because it's a Vectorworks Spotlight group. Okay. It's for people who use it. So I was, granted, I'm the guy who does this, so I'm a bit of an instigator. And I thought to myself, I should probably resign from the group.
Oh.
And I did. So now let me just answer the question. Let me pose a thesis. I know a lot of people, and I've talked to some people, very prolific people in the industry, and about, would you do something else? And the answer I get, and it makes sense, I have so much time and knowledge of how to use this thing, and I have all kinds of things that I've customized for my workflow, that to shift is a really not an efficient thing for me to do. And I get that. And you guys know that I've been a big fan of the other entertainment lighting software, but that's never going to take hold in this country. I've given up on that because perception is more powerful than reality. If you're in China, if you're in Europe, if you're in South America, there's another software that's very prolific, but it's not going to happen in the United States. I give up on that. But let me ask you this, because I'm doing some work. I asked David this question, and I've put this feeler out to a few other industry people to get some anecdotal feedback. If there was an alternative that 2D only. I'm talking 2D. I'm not talking Revit. I'm not talking BIM. Because back to Steve's point, drafting by hand is not 3D. Okay, it's on a piece of paper. If there was a 2D program that had a customized interface like Spotlight for theatrical lighting in a software that would only run you about $350 a year from a major global CAD company, the real leader in CAD in the world, with great tech support.
Who can he be talking about?
Would you move? Would you move?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
And as an added caveat, if you did, you would have qualifications to work in fields beyond the theater that actually pay a living wage.
And that program is?
I don't have to say it. If you haven't figured it out yet by all of that teasing, it's sort of obvious. But there isn't. Now, let me just say, once upon a time, there was a guy named Rufus Warren. Rufus Warren wrote a customized lighting design software that worked inside of AutoCAD. And it never took off because he was one guy with some friends, and it was like a garage-based company. You can look it up. I think he stopped working on it in 2014. And it was actually pretty damn good. And I would say the reason it didn't catch on was price, because it worked inside AutoCAD, which is an expensive program. So right now, I'm working with somebody who develops custom interfaces for, like Spotlight, but for other industries, and wondering, should we build one that would sit inside AutoCAD? And you wouldn't need full-blown AutoCAD, which is still expensive. You could use AutoCAD LT, which is about $380 a year.
Because that's 2D, right?
It's 2D only.
Right.
Yes. If you needed 3D, then you got to look at Revit or AutoCAD, full-blown AutoCAD. So there's a large, but full-blown AutoCAD is competitive with Vectorworks, but it's Autodesk. Okay. And if you look at Autodesk, they have a whole suite of softwares now targeted specifically for the entertainment industry. So it's sort of like, have you driven a Ford lately? Now, I got to just tell you my personal story quickly. I started in AutoCAD. There was no Vectorworks. There was no MiniCAD. Most of us started in AutoCAD, and we moved because the industry moved, because this thing called MiniCAD was cheap. Okay, and it made sense, and it did 2D beautifully. The question is it still the right place to be now? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I've gone back to AutoCAD.
But what are you teaching at school?
Well, the students still have to do Vectorworks,
Right.
Obviously, because that's where our industry is stuck. Well, you call it a standard, I call it stuck. Okay.
Two things could be right at the same time. You know that.
Yeah, I think
could
they're
be
both
stuck
right.
in a standard.
A standard is just because everybody's a standard. That's not an argument for doing something.
Stan called me for some marketing advice because he's given up his dream of becoming governor of Florida, and now
that's still on the back burner. That's still on the back burner.
Okay. I'm going to come
somebody's
to
got to
Florida.
do it.
I'm going to vote for you, Stan. I'm going to do an illegal
We've
vote.
got nobody doing it now.
That's right.
You're going to have to go to Mar-a-Lago and bend the knee.
Ooh, bend the knee. That's right. Stan bending the knee. I don't see that in his future.
I don't know. Maybe if the man holds out an AutoCAD disc to him, you never know. What's it going to take?
Look, let me
Everyone has
interject
their
this.
price.
Let me interject this. Our 14-year-old fan, Campbell Shaw,
Right.
he's listening. Okay. He has tried all the softwares. He's a Vectorworks kid. He's a WYSIWYG kid. He's an AutoCAD kid. He does everything. He's like a genius. He's a genius. Campbell knows, I think, very highly of him. He asked me a question one day. He said, I've got to buy a software. And if you were me and you were 14 starting out today, what would you do? And I said, wow, Campbell, that's a really tough question. I got to think about that for a couple of days. And I thought about it for a couple of days. And I came back and I said, if I was starting out today and I could only buy one software, or which, are you going to be Mac or PC? Like which way are you going to go? If I was 14, I would be in Autodesk world. I really would.
As far as getting jobs, you mentioned this earlier, Stan. Yes. I mean, boy, if you knew AutoCAD and Revit, you could walk into any architectural lighting firm and they would hire you in a second.
Not just architectural lighting. I mean, it's a skill that
of course.
pays a living wage.
Engineering. I mean, you could be a draftsman for a lot of things, but at least in architecture, you're still doing lighting design.
Can be. Yeah. And do you send people? I asked one of my. Do you send people Vectorworks files or do you send them PDFs? Now, it has to work with light, right? I'm looking into all of this, and I'm thinking it might be a retirement project, but it's not that I want to do damage to Vectorworks. It's like, I think our industry needs choices. I think every industry needs choices. They were very good at capturing a market, and they've been very good at keeping the market. And that's part of, and when you create, that's thoughtful. You create a product where banks do it all the time. You know how hard it is to move your money to a new bank? When's the last time you moved your money? They don't make it easy. And it's a business strategy. So it's difficult for people to move. I recognize that. So it's just a fleeting thought. But I just think philosophically, I don't agree with Steve. I think monopolies are bad because you don't get competition is good for progress. It's one of the good things about capitalism, I think, is that when people compete, everybody benefits. It raises all boats. And right now, there's no competition.
Okay, well, Steve has our final question of the day.
And it's from William in Rhode Island. And William writes, how do you store cable?
In a push cart.
In a push cart. On a big roll.
In a Rolls Royce trunk.
I don't know. It depends on each theater. I mean, I know you want a clean answer here. But, I mean, it depends. If you're a community theater, you store it one way. Maybe it's on pegs on a wall. If you're a large production company, maybe you're storing it on pallets or you're storing it in hampers. So, I think whatever's convenient for you. What we do is we store in color-coded hampers. So there's the red hamper. We know that's 10-foot cables. And we can stack that stuff and just move it onto stage. We do road cases the same way so that we can easily move things along and pull things out. But, there just isn't a one way to do it. I've seen people store twofers in buckets, for a variety of reasons. They just store it in whatever's convenient for the way they want to work on that stage. I don't know, how do you store cable in Florida and Long Beach?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I think we have the color-coded method like you, based on the New York sort of standards and, the colored electrical tape. I think in the light shop, it's pegs. Same thing with twofers. Then there's our electrician has a cart that kind of, and then buckets for twofers, very similar. I think our multi and our breakouts, we do have a cable cart with pegs that you can roll around, and it's got but it requires the kind of, attention to keeping things organized. And so, yes, similar, but I like the colored hampers method, but we wouldn't have any, I don't know if we use hampers for cable. We do that a lot for drapery, but I'm not the electrician, so I can't really give you too much detail.
All I know is that I guess I'm going to be waiting a long time until we find the remains of Nikola Tesla and the cats at MIT figure out how to clone him so we can figure out not to use cable anymore. My God.
Well, we were figuring it out with DMX. We're pretty close to wireless is pretty reliable now. So DMX cable is...
That's low voltage.
I know. Well, Tesla would see 110 as low voltage compared to lightning.
Well, yes.
You just got to step down the lightning.
And look what happened to him. He died.
Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to three crazy Light Talk addicts. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, Amazon Prime Music, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk Insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any of the statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
and this is insanity, and if those folks at Vectorworks decide to litigate me because I defamed their software, the law firm of Flecht, Flock, Flair, and Glare will come to my defense along with their paralegal Snoot and take every nickel I've saved for retirement.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to join us next week when we chat about more useless things and explore the crazy shenanigans in our industry.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
Get you some software.
Light Talk.